Welcome to my channel. And today, I have for you something a little different. It's a found footage horror short that I wrote, directed, and edited called Something is Breathing Through the Keyhole. It was shot by myself and stars Emily James and Chloe James. The film is about a young woman who discovers her new apartment has a terrifying secret. So I've been getting this question a lot from people in my Discord server and a few other places asking me how exactly I make my shorts. So I thought, what better time than the present to show you guys how I made my latest one. The first step to making any of my videos is writing the script. For this particular one, I went into my ideas document, which is just a Google Doc filled with random ideas that pop into my head throughout the day. It's usually when I should be doing something else. And here is where I keep track of all my story ideas, video ideas, character ideas, and sometimes random world-building ideas. I'm sure most of you watching already have an idea of how your story will go before you even start writing it. But for me, I like to see where my brain goes when I start putting pen to paper. Sometimes I'll have characters or images in my head that I want to use and then work a story around them. Other times I'll come up with a setting or an atmosphere that I want to write about and develop the story from there. Sometimes I'll get an image in my head and just roll with it. This is what happened with Something is Breathing Through the Keyhole. I had this one image in my mind of a girl sitting on the floor in a dark room with a keyhole above her head. And whatever was on the other side of it was breathing heavily right next to her face. From there, I started writing down some ideas about the keyhole. It could be a doorknob, but it could also be a window. Why was it there?
Oh, yes.
Is she locked in the room, or did she lock herself in? What was on the other side of it? Was it alive? Why was it breathing? And more importantly, why was it breathing on her face? Once I had these questions answered, the rest of the story practically wrote itself. After I have the basic plot figured out, I'll move on to writing the actual script. Now, I'm not one of those people who plans out their entire movie shot by shot before filming. I leave a lot of room for improvisation and adjusting things while we refilming, because I find that that's the best way to get natural reactions from actors. Also, I don't like planning things out too much, because if I have everything mapped out in my head, I'll be too focused on hitting every mark and hitting every line perfectly that I and be able to enjoy the moment. This isn't to say that I don't plan at all, though. I still know where I want the camera to be for most shots and what the general flow of the scene is going to be. I also have a rough idea of what I want the lighting to look like, and if I want to use any practical lights or strobes. Planning things out this loosely lets me focus more on getting good takes rather than hitting a specific shot list or blocking. With the script done, it's time to start thinking about the visuals. Now, I do this in two ways. First is by creating a Pinterest board, where I pin down images that will help me visualize what I want the film to look like. I look up things like lighting, framing, composition, color palettes, set design, costume design, hair and makeup, cinematography, and anything else that will help me figure out what the movie will look like. The second way I figure out the visuals for my films is by looking at other movies and shows. Now, I do want to say that I get inspiration from these other works, because that would imply that I take ideas from them and pass them off as my own. I like to think of it more as palate cleansing, if that makes sense. By watching other films, I can cleanse my brain of any preconceived notions I may have about how things should look and get a fresh perspective on things. Plus, watching other films is just plain fun. At this point, I'd say I have a pretty good grasp on what I want the film to look like. So now I can move on to pre-production. For this one, I met up with my producer, grabbed some B-roll footage of apartments and houses in our area, then went to an actual apartment and did a test shoot with the lead actress to see how lighting would look and to get some reference footage for later. Then it was time to send the finalized script off to the editor and start filming. Filming went great, and we got everything we needed. So it was time for me to sit in front of my computer and start putting the movie together. Now, I'm not going to go into the entire process of how I edit my movies. That's going to be a completely separate video. But I will say that my editing process starts with finding the best performance in each scene and building the movie around that. Once I've selected the best takes, I'll start putting the movie together roughly and then tighten things up once I've locked the picture. Then it's time to add sound effects, music, and do some color correction. And here we are. Something is Breathing Through the Keyhole, a short film by myself. I hope you guys enjoyed this little behind-the-scenes look at how I made this latest short. If you did, let me know in the comments. Also, if you want to support the channel, please consider supporting us through the link in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.